Welcome back to Coffee with Carl. We've talked about general theory of relativity and suggested that the construction of the concept of space-time is an upgrading of the principle of inertia in the 21st century. But in a way we've moved a bit fast. If you look at the special theory, you have to ask yourself, how is it possible that this has been launched upon us in a way, when quite clearly a different way of looking at it is contained within the very terms of reference? Well, the answer is that we began by saying that there's a sense in which we see things upside down when we start from a perspective where the assumptions are not challenged. So when you look at the special theory of relativity, it's almost a matter of fact that we do not see how this upside downness works. So when this particular aspect of the theory was being developed, it's assumed that the two areas of focus, which is the relativity of motion and the speed of light, can be dealt with in a commutative way, by which I mean it doesn't matter which way round you think about it. But the problem with that is that the concepts that you develop in order to talk about relativity of motion, speed and time and space, you then have these developed and assume that you can then straight away apply them to the nature of light, as if the speed of light is a meaningful statement. Yet it's quite clear from the implications of relativity that the speed of light is actually a benchmark motion. And so it makes a lot of sense to think of that benchmark as not actually moving. And secondly, the reason that makes sense is because in not moving, it also exhibits none of the characteristics that we associate with time. So instead of calling it the speed of light, it would be more useful to think of it as static existence. That is, a form of existence completely different to relative existence, which is covered by what we understand by relative motions. So here we have two things: relative existence, i.e. mass and massy things, and the speed of light as static existence, which is non-mass and non-temporal. So the question is, how do those two things relate? Clearly, as you move further into the special theory, you see that that relationship affects both the massiness and the temporalness of things, so that already we can see that mass and time are qualitatively distinct from no time, which is light nature. But what tends to happen is that we lump everything together like porridge and think this is light, this is matter, this is space, this is... as if these words actually mean anything qualitative, when in fact it's all about quantitative things. So it makes far more sense to think of the order in which these questions are dealt with in special relativity, that is, relative motion and light nature, as commutative or non-commutative. That is, you can deal with them in one way and you'll get one answer, deal with them in another way and you'll get a different answer. So already what we've been saying about mass time in general relativity, well, the seeds of it are sown in the special theory. But the reason we can't see that is because we do not question assumptions. And I hope that kind of brings us to the end of this foray into science, because the questioning of assumptions has far more serious implications. And if it's just been demonstrated that our thought gets limited by not questioning assumptions, then maybe there's been some measure of success. Perhaps these coffees with Carl are beginning to feel more real than the thing that causes us to fall asleep, which is to not question things, which is basically the rest of our lives. So we'll try and think of a way of extending assumptions, especially with regard to mass time and what it actually implies, into other areas of life. So we'll do that next time. Cheers.